Greetings, lovers of lore. Thank you for joining me for the 5th installment of the Duskmourn House of Horror story. This part of the story starts with Tyvar and Zimone traversing the house. Tyvar's transformation magic was used on and off to dampen their presence and stop them from being overwhelmed by malevolent energy when the transformation was held for too long. Tyvar had learned this level of control during the Phyrexian War. The two arrived at an impossibility, a room that was completely normal. Comfortable furniture and nice wall hangings created a cozy atmosphere. A cup of iced tea sat on a table beside a teenage girl who was idly writing in a diary. Zimone recognized the girl from the picture she had seen earlier, the one where the parents' faces had been scratched out. Something didn't add up. That picture had been quite old, but this girl hadn't aged a day from when it was made. Zimone used her scanner, trying to sense time magic, but there was no trace of temporal distortion. The girl had no awareness of them, even when they spoke. Tyvar suggested she might be a ghost. A moment later, the girl rose and left the room with her drink and diary. The room swiftly changed as she departed. Blood boiled from the floor. The furniture rotted, and pictures lining the walls became horrific. They trailed after this curious stranger and witnessed the transformation that occurred around her. Wherever she went, the surroundings normalized. Plants sprung back to life, furnishings restoring themselves. Zimone theorized she must be repelling the house's nature somehow. It was most likely why she couldn't see Zimone and Tyvar, since they were currently under the effect of Tyvar's transformation. Tyvar released his power, and Zimone offered a tentative, "Hello?" The girl dropped her drink and screamed, "What are you doing in my house?" Zimone explained, "We're lost and trying to find our friends." Then she asked the girl's name. "I'm Marina vandel, and if you mean me harm, I will go outside and call the watch." Tyvar assured her they meant her no harm, and Marina asked, "How did you get inside?" Zimone told her they came in through the door and asked what was wrong with the house. Marina was puzzled. "Nothing is wrong with this place." Zimone was confused. "So this place has always been riddled with living horrors?" Marina was dumbfounded. "What are you talking about?" Zimone mentioned she had found a book in the library that was a history of the house, and it made no mention of monsters. Marina knew the book. She spoke of it. It was called an architectural accounting. The book was started by the previous owner of the house, who felt that houses should be respected as if they were living beings. One of the conditions of buying the house was that Marina and her family had to update the book with their own experiences. Zimone and Tyvar asked Marina if she was the one who scrawled the dark magic annotations that Zimone had seen in the book, and Marina freaked out. She shut her eyes, covered her ears, and chanted, "You aren't real! You're not here!" She chanted it over and over. The transformation around Marina started to shrink, allowing Duskmourn's nature to reassert itself. Horrors started to emerge from the walls. Zimone moved towards Marina, but Tyvar grabbed her and started to run. The nightmares gave chase. Tyvar pulled Zimone around a corner and activated his transformation magic again, and the nightmares charged past, unable to find them. They agreed that the house was protecting the girl for some reason. Zimone said they would have answers soon and showed Tyvar that she held Marina's diary. Zimone had grabbed it in the chaos. The diary started with the regular sort of complaints you would find from a 16-year-old girl who was being forced to leave her friends behind as her dad relocated for work purposes. She was lonely and scared in this new place. Then she found the spirit in the basement. Its name was Valgavoth. It had been summoned as a house helper by a previous owner who had no clue as to how strong the spirit was. Once they realized their mistake, they abandoned the house, leaving Valgavoth trapped. The spirit told Marina how to research ways to free him. This led Marina to study necromancy, demonology, and other dark magics. In the end, Marina decided she didn't want to free the spirit. She was lonely, and a part of her worried what Val, her pet name for him, would do if he was freed. Marina could sense his rage at being trapped here and didn't want people to get hurt. Marina's disposition changed after she kept getting bullied at school. Val offered to punish them, and Marina relented and invited her bullies to the house. The diary explained that the house consumed her bullies in horrific fashion, and this gave Valgavoth the power to grow and consume more people. Marina was guilt-ridden by what she had done and wanted to find a way to save herself and her parents. Zamon's eyes widened as she realized a terrifying truth. Valgavoth was the entire house and had consumed the whole plane of existence. The story then turns to Nashi, the Wanderer, and Nico traveling with Winter. Nashi led them through an array of horrific rooms following the call of his mother Tamiyo. They reached a collection of rude huts, and Winter got anxious. This is the Valley of Serenity. It houses the cult of Valgavoth. We need to leave. Nashi would not hear it. This way leads to my mother. Winter shook his head as they continued onwards and started to explain the cult's beliefs. Valgavoth is the demon spirit of Duskmourn, who swallowed the world. The cult traps people to convert them or sacrifice them. They are the worst thing in this entire damned place. Nico was skeptical. Winter only said, "You'll see." They entered into what looked like a natural cavern and found a large stone altar. 6 humanoids in moss-shaped robes were there. Chrysalises hung along the edges of the room. Some of them twitched with movement. 3 victims were trapped in the middle of the room, while one of the robed priests was extolling the virtues of joining them. Be transformed in glory. Be free of fear. One of the victims cried and said she was so tired of being afraid. Her friend tried to stop her, but she persisted, and the cultists freed her and took her to a waiting chrysalis and put her inside. At that point, Nico called out, "Leave her alone!" The moth priest turned at the sound, and suddenly Nashi, the Wanderer, and Nico felt lethargic from some unknown magic. The cultists grabbed them, while the priest smiled at Winter. "Well done. You have earned much favor." Winter smiled back and pulled a stone from the nearby wall, which caused a granite slab to slam down, leaving everyone sealed in with the cult of Valgavoth. The moth priest blew dust off of the tome he held, and it cascaded over Nico, Nashi, and the Wanderer. They all blacked out. They awoke tied to stone pillars in a different cavern. Tamiyo's scroll was on an altar, and she was slumped in pain above it. She was telling her stories to a priest who stood recording them. The stories told of worlds unknown to Duskmourn. These stories would lead the demon to find new worlds to feed on by creating doors for the unwary. "We offer you a place among us," a priest said to the Wanderer, but she shook her head. The priest walked away in disappointment. The story then switches to Kaido having just returned to Ravnica, with a parting gift of blood-stained wood cutting into his hand. Kaido attempted to planeswalk back to Duskmourn, and while he could feel its location, he couldn't actually get there. For a moment, he worried his spark was gone. He raced off to return to the doorway to Duskmourn, but was intercepted by Niv-Mizzet and the others. He explained about encountering Jace and his possible missing spark. Aminatou reached out and confirmed Kaido's spark was still there. The house itself had thwarted his return. Proft saw that Kaido held a part of Duskmourn and a plan formulated in his mind. And that ends the 5th installment of the Duskmourn House of Horror story. I hope that you've enjoyed it. A big thank you to this channel's members and patrons for supporting what we do here. And if you enjoyed this video, you too can become a member or join the Patreon. In the meantime, until the next part of the story comes out, go and enjoy some other videos on this channel, because at the end of the day, lore is life.